South Africa's batting ends abruptly at 7, a line you've heard on this show a number of times. Unfortunately, it wasn't abrupt enough. South Africa's last four combined for 24 and took them over the line against Pakistan. Welcome to the shiny side. We're looking back at Pakistan lost to South Africa. We have with us Omer Basir once again from Houston. And how's it going, Omer?
I'm doing well, Faris. Thanks for having me. Finally, a nail biter.
Yeah, I mean that's the plus side for sure. Finally, the game with the World Cup needed. Maybe not the result the World Cup needed, regardless of who you support. And to kick things off with a 30-second summary, which I can do. So to kick things off, Pakistan won the toss and batted. We were 38 for 2. There was a 58-run partnership with Rizwan and Babar, where Rizwan once he got out for about 30 odd, and then at 141 for 5 is when Babar got out for a 50 once again, a decently paced 50, but that's where we had a partnership between Saud Shakil and Shadab, which took us to about 80-odd partnership. It took us to about 240 with 10 overs to go, but from there we kind of collapsed and we were 270 all out with about 30 balls to go. South Africa's batting, we were kind of getting wickets at regular intervals, pretty much, and eventually needed 22 more with just 2 wickets in hand, but South Africa managed to get over the line 1 by a wicket, so 43 seconds. So, yeah, Omar, what's your initial sentiment?
Initial sentiment, yeah, it was, again, close-fought games. It was an exciting game, which was a big positive. I think South Africa stumbled more than, maybe expectedly, but more than the way they've been playing. They kept giving Pakistan a lot of chances. Like, Pakistan kept saying, "Pehle aap." And at the end of the day, they were able to just sneak away this win. I don't think Pakistan only has to look at themselves to blame for this. I think there was enough opportunity to spike.
We'll obviously look at a lot of stuff that happened today, but जो चीजें मैच के एंड में होती हैं उन पर काफी फोकस आ जाता है for right or wrong, right? Like Hassan Ali's drop catch and so on. That DRS decision, right? Like that's how close it was, right? Because had the umpire given that out, and even if they would have reviewed it, the game would have been over. And then even the leg by which the umpire didn't give.
Yeah, I didn't let that get to me because the one Osama Mir, when he got that LBW, it could have easily gone the other way, right? That really was, so, that's part of the game. It got very close. Very, very close. And I think South Africa, again, was just trying to find ways to lose this game. It was,
they were being South Africa and we weren't being Pakistan enough, I guess.
Yeah, we started becoming Pakistan towards the last few when we realized that hum jeet sakte hain. I think belief, you could see that belief coming in and people were trying hard. It was too late.
Yeah. So I guess just starting off at the top, right? So at the toss, Pakistan opted to bat. Probably made sense given who they were playing. Wasim Jr. for Hassan Ali was probably a good call, even though Hassan Ali had a fever. That's what was behind it. And we had Nawaz coming in for Osama. Also, that also made sense, we thought. Thing with Wasim Jr. is, I think we've been saying this for a while, that he generally was way higher in the pecking order than Hassan Ali. He averages about 27 in ODI, so he has a very decent record across about 30-odd games. But because he had really poor warm-up games, he was never considered, and somehow Hassan Ali went ahead of him. So I guess it makes you wonder whether, that was the right call or not, and we'll never know the answer to that question. What did you make of those changes, Umar?
Yeah, recency bias is a thing, right? So, and it's fair. You want people informed coming in. Obviously, it never makes sense when somebody who wasn't in the original squad comes in and makes the first 11. Yeah. So that's always something that can be discussed. Mohammad Wasim, extremely impressive for someone sitting out. Again, recent form issues coming in. He was probably our best bowler for most of the game. The changes, I think we Fakhr didn't make it. That was in the preview we had. We were all thinking he'd come in for somewhere and somehow.
I don't know if you were thinking or if we were hoping. I think we were hoping. I don't know if you were thinking.
Yeah, maybe we were hoping. And so batting, I think, went as per, how we play, as per template. Yeah. I think given the middle order starts everyone got, resurgence, we should have ended better. I think changes were expected. I think Mohammad Wasim did justice to his...
So getting into the batting, we lost the openers early for a change, even though the openers have been decent so far. And Babar and Rizwan had a standard partnership. Rizwan was maybe trying to take the game on a bit too much, maybe. If I can say that in hindsight. But I think the key talking point there was the partnership between Saud Shakil and Shadab. That may have been the best 20 minutes or 40 minutes of our tournament for me. Like it was so refreshing to see the way they went about taking on the bowling.
Yeah. And we've seen flashes of that from South in the earlier games as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think he showed it that if you have intent and play cricketing shots, you can score at a run a ball very easily, right? And they showed there were no demons in the pitch, which is which is what has been our issue. So I think that's where, I mean, Iftikhar ended at what, 67 strike rate, Babar
I
ended at
mean,
maybe 70
sorry,
something strike rate.
speaking of Iftikhar, he was promoted above Saud Shakil. Now, that didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I said that at that point to you on WhatsApp, I think, as well, because my thing is Iftikhar is one of our best hitters of pace. He does not start so well against spin, and there was likely to be a lot of spin when he came in. So how did you see that decision?
Yeah. No, I think we were all shocked. South, from what we've seen of him so far, looked like the player who just perfect for the situation, right? Come in and make those run a ball type runs and take it deep.
Yeah.
It was surprising. I'm not sure. Maybe, again, recency bias. I think, was it the warm-up games of the Asia Cup where Iftikhar scored one or two big hundreds, and maybe they were thinking, maybe let's give him some game time. He's done it before, maybe he'll do it again. But it didn't make sense, I think, to
also because I feel like South is not so suited to 6 as he is to 5. So we obviously lost wickets early, so we had a lot of time. But he's probably better off coming in earlier than later, unlike Iftikhar, who can...
He's not a big hitter. He's not a big hitter. We needed somebody to take it deep, and then Iftikhar could have really played his game versus trying to stick around.
Yeah. Before we move on, any thoughts on Babar's innings? I mean, I thought, I didn't, to be honest, I couldn't watch a lot of it. But I think I was probably pretty happy with his strike rate, I would say. I mean, 50 or 65 in an ODI when you're setting a platform is probably okay. But that's the thing. Now, he's got a third 50, 4 games में तीसरी 50 but then he's getting out at 50, which is the problem.
Yeah, I think so. He's looked extremely fluent in every game. But to be honest, he looked a little bit scratchier to me today.
Okay.
So he did have to struggle a bit to get to his runs. When you're a number 3 and number 1 batter, 50, we've talked about it all the time. Top 3 misses, somebody has to play the big knock. You get a start, you have to stick around.
And once again, except for Imam, I think, or except for maybe one of the openers, everybody got at least 20 in the top 6. So everyone is getting a start, but no one is going on to play that like big knock. The highest score we had today was what, 52 by Saud and 50 by Babar, and not even any other 50 actually.
Yep.
So very frustrating.
I mean, for any team. Go ahead.
And I guess so when Shadab got out, right, the score at that point was about 225 for 6 with 10 overs to go. Now, I think what is criminal is if you don't play out your 50 overs, right? So we left about 30 odd balls out there. Even if you could have got like another 20 of them, and the way the game ended, like we're not saying this in hindsight, right? We're all saying this well, but you have to bat out the innings, right? So I think the second maybe Shadab got out, they should have adjusted the plan accordingly and, just thought about, I mean, I saw Shaheen going for a big one and so on. I mean, while Nawaz is there, just let him bat. Don't go for the big shot yourself. But
we should have tried to end the innings the way we started our innings, which is just wait for that bad ball when our singles or, respect a good ball. And just take it deep, right? That's how we should have ended. I mean, first of all, let's take a second to say good job to I think Saud, Shakil, and Shadab, because before that happened, I think I was expecting us to get all out
at 140. I was thinking maybe like an India type collapse. Sorry, I was just saying at 140. I was saying maybe like an India kind of collapse, and 270 there was a definite. I would have taken it for sure at 145, right? Like let's not there's no two ways about it.
Correct. Yeah. So they were able to. The recovery was extremely important, and they showed that you can put the opposition. You can put pressure. That type of score. It wasn't a par score, but you could put pressure on that.
Yeah. And I guess it was something conversation perhaps later. But I feel like with Shadab, the way he bats, I feel like I don't know if he's good enough to be the 4th bowler, but he probably is good enough to be the 5th bowler who can bat at 7. That's how I see him in the side. So moving on to...
We didn't get to see him today, but there was something in the pitch for spinners, and who knows, right? I mean, maybe he could...
So I guess, moving on to our bowlings starting from where you left off, right? So Shadab not being able to bowl a single ball, that was obviously a big blow. I mean, Usama did just about okay, but we never could see what Shadab would have done, right? And again, we were missing our best fielder for most of the 50 overs. But I think we started really poorly in the first couple of overs, right? So I liked how they started with Ifti. We discussed this in the preview, but like him bowling a wide down the leg side, going for 4, and then Shaheen going for 4 fours in the first 2 overs, right? So it was a bit Pakistan, like it was a bit helter-skelter all over the place. And I think we managed to tighten things pretty quickly, but just that, and again, with the way the game ended, those first 2 overs now look massive, right?
Right, right. So I don't. So we did tighten it, but maybe not quickly enough. I think when Wasim came into ball is when I think
Yeah,
we really had some type of control on the
yeah,
game. Up until then, Sama was bowling a full toss over,
yeah.
and then so it wasn't. It was
I
this
mean,
run rate was never in control.
so Shaheen, I think, gave 17 or 19 in the first over, but then he gave only one each in the next 3 overs, right? So that was, again, I think
Yeah,
he came back after the
good
first, well, after the
recovery.
first over, but you're right, until Wasim came in, the control was lacking a little. And if you look at the bowling overall, I guess we kind of got wickets at regular intervals. It wasn't one of those where there was a big partnership and a massive collapse, but in the beginning at least, I think that we had them at about 120 for four. And at that point, it looked a bit like, you know what, maybe
Yeah.
we have a chance there. But then 136 for four actually, and that's where the partnership between Miller and Markram happened. Markram was, again, he was really good, but at 206 for five, and then it was just like, it's hard to
Yeah.
say where the game turned. Where do you see the game? Like, where did you see the game kind of coming into our favor somewhat?
So yeah, I mean, I think that was a stage where we're like, we can do this, and I think it is these moments where, as a captain, you are judged, right? And I think Babar missed a trick there. I think as soon as we saw those couple of balls fly through, David Miller's chin, again in our group of friends, we were like, slip, 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 and we were all joking, "Ki Babar kabhi slip nahi layega," right?
Uh,
And then it took one ball to go to perfect catching height through first or second slip, and then he puts a slip in, reactive move. We know how those goes often, right?
yeah,
I think it is those moments where your captaincy comes, you show that, look, I'm proactive and I'm going to
yeah.
control the game.
And I
To me,
also,
that was the
yeah,
critical
yeah.
play,
You
passage
know,
play.
and at that point, I was just following the game on my phone, and I saw 100 to get. Shaheen's only bowled 4 overs, right? So I was like, hang on, how are we letting this game slip away when Miller and Macram were
Yeah,
at it? And by the way, I think I haven't talked about Macram here, right? And give him some credit because I think he was he scored that. We spoke about this. He scored that 60 ball 100. He can also score that run a ball knock, and he was extremely solid. He literally held the innings together because
yeah,
I think the second highest score after him was Miller at 29. So nobody really scored, but I think
yeah.
he basically carried the. And I think he got out with what, 22 to get or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost over, right? It gave Pakistan a
Yeah.
last ray of hope. Like, what
Hmm.
was, I don't know if we need to admire South Africa's approach or worry about their approach, because while they were very brave and almost, Baz Bullish in their style of play where they never held back, at times it appeared very foolish where they
Yeah.
were trying to go for these big hits when the run rate required under was, four something,
Yeah.
and they were getting easy runs. There was no
Yeah.
need. Pakistan were
Yeah.
bowling okay. We weren't bowling amazingly well. And they just let the game sort of they let Pakistan come into the game. So I think for
Yeah.
them, there was concern with them chasing, and I think there are still concerns for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess I mean, I think when, again, right, we were this close, right? So it's like there's so many little things you can pick on and you're going talking about this, right? Right in the end, and I'm completely okay with them boiling out Haris and Wasim and Shaheen. I'm fine with that. Nawaz versus Osama. What was your thought then?
Yeah, I think Osama, you're bowling to a tail ender, a leg spinner. I think has a great shot at it. Nawaz really hasn't been turning the ball as such, so I think.
So yeah, I think on that call, I feel like when I was thinking Osama and Nawaz came in, I'm like, this could work because Nawaz is the kind of guy who will always hit the stumps. So, had they come down the track and whacked him, that's fine. But him bowling a ball way down the leg side, I mean, come on, man. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, yeah, I was excited to see Osama bowl, being a leg spinner to tail spinning. He did well. Uh, out, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's again. I think we it was just we needed to have more runs on the board. I think we can look into the finer
Yeah.
plays from a bowling perspective,
Yeah.
right? So it's been the story of the tournament for us, not just not putting enough scores on the board,
Yeah.
but our bowling did show up today. Our
Yeah.
fielding did
Yeah.
show up today, which was all
Yeah.
positives to take home. But the batting is where the
Yeah.
issue is.
So I guess as far as the tournament's concerned, well, I think as far as Pakistan's concerned, we effectively, I mean, it's still possible if other results go away, but it's very unlikely. As far as the tournament's concerned, it's a bit sad because it suddenly seems like we pretty much know who the first semi-finalists are, and we're going to play about 20 odd games to figure out who finishes, what the order in the top four is. So
Yeah.
I guess let's see how that plays out. But I would want to move on to tomorrow's matches. Do you have any final thoughts for this? And by the way, we will, I guess, maybe in another show talk about what needs to happen for us to qualify, but today's not the day for it. So let's just talk about, I think, moving on. But any final thoughts on today's game, Over?
Final, no, not a lot of. I think there are still positives to take for Pakistan from this if things work out in our favor. But the team needs to do a lot more work to really go till the end. But good, exciting game at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. Just very quickly, I'm going to pull up the fixtures which we have coming up. So for what it's worth, we have Bangladesh on Tuesday in Kolkata. We have New Zealand, and then we have England. South Africa now have 5 wins. They have New Zealand, India, 1. So they need to win one of those. So I guess they're looking in pretty good position to qualify as well, and potentially, and not as a fourth, but as a second or third team. Moving on very quickly so there's 2 games tomorrow. We will preview the first one is Australia versus New Zealand. And like I said, this game is now mostly about where the teams finish rather than anything else. So they're playing in Dharamsala, expecting Travis Head to come in, and expecting Labuschagne to go out, expect Stoinis to come back in for Cam Green, and expect New Zealand to go unchanged. Any thoughts on these 11s, Umar, and any prediction for tomorrow?
Yeah, I like that Australian 11. Really excited to see Travis Head come back.
Yeah.
I think Australia so far maybe was punching above their weight. If that phrase for the team that they had, but with Head coming in, Stoinis coming back, I think there's real firepower now, and I think they look way better. So Australia looks really good. New Zealand is the team. New Zealand and India look like the 2 top teams at the moment. With Australia, in these 2 changes coming in, I think it's going to be an amazing game.
I'm expecting New Zealand to fall apart a little bit. I'm expecting them not to finish 2, maybe 3 or 4. Let's see. That's because I feel like Australia is really coming into their own right now, and I think New Zealand might fall back a little bit. So
if it was Pakistan, I'd be like, kal haar jao taaki aap apni jaan or energy बाकी games के रखें. With New Zealand, maybe it's like they thrive more on consistency, right, and being clinical. So I want them to continue that, and I think they look like, again, a team to challenge India for that top title at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I guess the last thing on the show, as always, is the quiz. And today's quiz is about. So we didn't really talk about England and Sri Lanka yesterday, but since winning the ODI World Cup in '96, England have played Sri Lanka 5 times in the ODI World Cup. How many of those games has Sri Lanka won?
I'd say I can't recall many of the games, but I'd say a 5 out of 5.
So you're close. They won 4. So England actually beat them in '99 in the World Cup, which happened in England, and since then Sri Lanka has beaten them 4 out of 4, which was quite a surprise when I saw the stat. But that's about it for the day. So thank you for being on the show, Omer.
Thanks for having me. And go do something to change the mood.
Yes, and for those of you who liked the video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back tomorrow after the Australia-New Zealand game. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.